What if I told you that anger is not strength, it's slavery? That every time you get angry, you hand someone else the keys to your peace of mind? Think about it. How many moments in your life were ruined, not by what happened, but by your reaction to it? The Stoics believed that the truly powerful person is not the one who can strike hardest, but the one who cannot be shaken. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here's the problem. In today's world, we live in constant irritation. Social media, traffic, rude people, betrayal, rejection, the list is endless. Everyone seems to be fighting invisible battles, snapping at minor inconveniences. We call it being human, but the Stoics called it being untrained. And this is where our journey begins, in learning how to train the mind so deeply that nothing can disturb it. Now imagine standing in a storm, wind howling, rain hitting your face, and yet you feel calm. Not because the storm stopped, but because you stopped reacting to it. That is the Stoic ideal. But how do you get there? How can you live in a noisy, unfair world without letting it poison your peace? To answer that, we have to go back 2,000 years to a man who had every reason to be angry and yet wasn't. His name was Epictetus. Born a slave, crippled, beaten, humiliated, he should have been consumed by rage. But instead, he mastered something that most people never will: the art of indifference. He once said, "When someone does you wrong, immediately consider what led him to do it. As soon as you understand, you will pity him instead of being angry." Epictetus didn't just control his temper, he rewired his perception. That's where true freedom begins, not in changing people or circumstances, but in changing perception. The Stoics trained themselves to see every offense as a mirror, not of others, but of themselves. When you're angry, you're not reacting to the world, you're reacting to your expectations of it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your peace is shattered because you expected them to be considerate. Someone betrays you. You suffer not because of the act, but because you expected loyalty. The Stoics said, "Stop expecting the world to be gentle, and your peace will never depend on it." Seneca warned, "He who is angry at the faults of others forgets that men are frail." This isn't about suppressing anger, it's about outgrowing it. But here's where most people fail. They think calmness means being passive, that Stoicism is about emotional numbness. It's not. The Stoic doesn't ignore emotions, he understands them. Anger is natural, but it's not necessary. Seneca said, "Anger is like falling off a cliff. It drags you down faster than you can recover." And yet in every moment before we fall, there is a pause, a breath, a choice. That's where power lives. The difference between reaction and response, between chaos and clarity, happens in that split second when you decide whether to let emotion rule you or to rule over it. That is what this video is about, learning how to master that pause. By the end of this journey, you'll learn the Stoic tools to never be bothered again, not because life becomes easy, but because you become unshakable. You'll see how Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from friends, how Seneca endured exile, how Epictetus rose from slavery, all without losing peace. You'll discover why the modern world desperately needs their wisdom, and how to build the same mental armor they wore every single day. But before we get to that, let's start with the first lesson, the one that every Stoic mastered before anything else: understanding where anger really comes from. To master anger, you first have to understand what it truly is, not just an emotion, but a judgment.
The Stoics believed that emotions don't arise from events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." When someone insults you, it's not the words that cause the fire inside. It's your interpretation of them. You decide, often unconsciously, that those words mean disrespect, that they threaten your worth, that they must be punished. But what if you changed the story? What if instead of seeing an insult as an attack, you saw it as noise from a troubled soul? That's what Stoics did. They rewrote their emotional scripts. And by doing so, they became immune to the chaos of other people. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the mightiest empire on earth, faced betrayal, rebellion, and daily criticism. Yet in his meditations, written privately to himself, he never ranted about injustice. Instead, he reminded himself of a single truth. When you wake up, remember that you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful men. But none of them can harm your mind. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome knew he couldn't control people, only his perception of them. That's why he remained calm when others would have lost control. His peace was self-generated, not world-dependent. In today's world, our anger often hides beneath convenience. A slow Wi-Fi connection, someone cutting in line, a rude comment online. It's not that the event is unbearable. It's that we've trained our minds to expect comfort, obedience, and validation. We're not angry because things go wrong. We're angry because we think they shouldn't. Seneca warned against this illusion centuries ago. Expecting life to always go your way is like expecting the sea to be still while you sail. The Stoics didn't hope for calm waters. They trained to sail through storms. And that's the difference between being reactive and being resilient. Let's pause here and ask, what makes you angry most often? Is it disrespect? Injustice? Being misunderstood? The Stoics would say those are mirrors. They reflect parts of you that are still attached to ego, to the need for control, to the belief that the world owes you peace. The more you identify with ego, the more vulnerable you become to disturbance. Seneca called anger a short madness because it blinds reason. It turns you from a master into a slave of impulse. The Stoic, therefore, works to break this chain by separating emotion from identity. When insulted, he doesn't think, they disrespected me. He thinks, someone acted according to their nature. The event stays external, the peace stays internal. Here's the hidden truth. Anger feels powerful, but it's actually weakness disguised as strength. It's the inability to hold your ground without exploding. Anyone can yell, anyone can slam doors, but only a trained mind can smile when provoked, remain calm when tested, and still choose reason over rage. That's what Seneca meant when he said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Every moment that bothers you is a test, not of the world, but of your discipline. And if you fail, don't condemn yourself. Learn. The Stoics didn't demand perfection. They demanded progress, the daily practice of catching yourself one reaction earlier than before. But understanding anger is only the first step. The real transformation begins when you learn how to interrupt it, when you start noticing that tiny window between stimulus and response. The Stoics used powerful techniques to control that instant, methods that still work today, even in our hyper-reactive digital age. And in the next part, we'll uncover exactly how they trained their minds to stay calm while others lost control. The ancient exercises that allowed them to walk through fire, untouched by anger, untied by emotion. The Stoics didn't wait for anger to disappear. They trained it out of themselves. They treated emotions like muscles that could be strengthened through deliberate practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That single line contains one of the most powerful tools for mastering your emotions, the pause. The Stoics trained the mind to pause before judgment, to delay the reflex of reaction long enough for reason to step in. Seneca called this moment the space where wisdom breathes. So how did they practice it? The first Stoic exercise was the pause and observe method. Whenever anger arose, they didn't suppress it. They observed it, like scientists watching a storm form in the sky. What am I feeling? Why? They'd ask. By naming the emotion, they weakened its grip. Neuroscience now confirms this. Labeling an emotion reduces its intensity in the brain's amygdala. But the Stoics knew this intuitively centuries ago. The moment you become aware of anger, it loses its invisibility. It turns from master into subject. So, when someone offends you, instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You become the observer, not the prisoner. That single act transforms chaos into control. Seneca had another method, delay. He advised the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Anger feeds on immediacy. It wants to explode now. It wants to be seen, to be justified. Delay starves it. Try this. When something triggers you, walk away, count to 10, speak after a moment of silence. The Stoics would deliberately wait until their body cooled before deciding how to act. In that delay, reason awakens. Modern psychologists call it the cooling response. The Stoics simply called it wisdom. Epictetus took this further. He said, "When you are insulted, know that the one who insults you is trying to move you. Do not be moved." He taught his students mental reframing, the art of changing perception instantly. If someone mocks you, imagine they're sick, not physically, but mentally disturbed by ignorance or pain. Would you get angry at a feverish man? No, you'd pity him. The same logic applies to insults. The Stoic doesn't take offense because he understands the offender is ruled by passions he himself has mastered. Reframing turns insult into insight. Marcus Aurelius used this daily. Each morning, he would rehearse his potential annoyances. Today, I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant. He pre-accepted human behavior so he would never be surprised by it. This practice, known as premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, made him unbothered. He was mentally prepared for everything, so nothing could shake him. You can do the same. Expect imperfection, and peace becomes your default state. The Stoics also used visualization. They would picture themselves as a rock in a raging sea. The waves crash, but the rock stands. No matter what happens around it, it remains unmoved. When you visualize yourself as that rock, you detach from chaos. The noise, the drama, the insults, they all become waves. Temporary, harmless, powerless. This mental image rewires your nervous system. It tells your body that you are safe, that no external storm can break you. These techniques, the pause, delay, reframe, and visualize, were the Stoics' weapons against anger. But they also carried something deeper, compassion. Seneca said, "To understand all is to forgive all." The Stoic learns to see through others' anger to the pain beneath it. When you see a person suffering instead of their attack, you remain calm. Empathy becomes armor. But there's still one more level of mastery, one that most never reach. The Stoics called it apatheia, a state of imperturbable tranquility where nothing can shake the mind. How did they reach that? The answer lies in a powerful realization, one that changes how you see the entire world.
The Stoics believed that the ultimate victory over anger comes through achieving a state called apatheia. Not apathy, as some misunderstand it, but a calm strength born from deep understanding. Apatheia means being free from the tyranny of passion, a tranquility so profound that no insult, no chaos, no loss can disturb it. This is not cold detachment, it's enlightened composure. It's seeing life for what it is, temporary, imperfect, unpredictable, and deciding to remain centered anyway. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That image captures apatheia perfectly. The world crashes, people rage, but you stand unmoved, not because you don't feel, but because you understand. Seneca described this state as the mind being unconquered by fortune. Whether fate brings pleasure or pain, gain or loss, the Stoic accepts both as equal visitors. He knows that external things cannot touch the soul unless the soul invites them in. This was the secret behind their unbothered nature. They didn't seek control over people or outcomes, only over interpretation. That is the source of apatheia. When you no longer demand that life be easy or fair, life loses its power to anger you. You stop fighting reality and begin flowing with it. The Stoic doesn't resist the storm, he becomes still within it. Think of Epictetus again. A man born into slavery, his leg broken by his master, stripped of freedom, and yet he was one of the freest men who ever lived. He said, "I must die, but must I die bawling?" That single question reveals the Stoic's secret. You can't control events, but you can always control your attitude toward them. That's apatheia. Even pain becomes powerless when it meets acceptance. In modern terms, it's emotional invincibility, the ability to experience everything without being overwhelmed by anything. But how does one build such an unshakable mind in a world designed to provoke us? The Stoics practiced cognitive separation, reminding themselves that nothing external has moral value. Fame, insults, wealth, rejection, all are neutral. Only your use of them determines their meaning. They'd repeat to themselves, "It's not good, it's not bad, it just is." Try applying that today. When your phone buzzes with bad news, when someone tries to get under your skin, whisper those words, "It just is." You'll feel the power return instantly. The event loses control over you because you've taken control over your interpretation. Marcus Aurelius also mastered this through humility. He reminded himself that everything he experienced had happened before and would happen again. "Time is a river, and all things pass," he wrote. This awareness kills anger at its root, the illusion of permanence. Why get angry at something that is already fading? Why let a moment's irritation steal your eternity? The Stoic mind knows that everything is borrowed, time, people, success, even failure, so it holds nothing too tightly, and thus nothing can break it. To live with apatheia doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you start caring wisely. You still love, you still act, you still fight for what's right, but you do it without attachment to results. You act with reason, not emotion. This is why the Stoics were not passive. They were warriors of peace. Seneca advised rulers, Marcus led armies, Epictetus taught freedom. They didn't retreat from life, they engaged with it fully, but calmly. The Stoic ideal isn't withdrawal, it's engagement without agitation. But there's one final secret that completes this transformation, something that even Stoics struggled with at times. It's the ability to forgive, not just others, but yourself. Because even the wisest among us will fall, react, and feel anger again. The goal isn't to never stumble, but to never stay fallen. And in the next and final part of this video, we'll explore how Stoics turned failure and frustration into fuel for deeper peace, and how you too can live in a state where nothing and no one can truly bother you ever again.
The final mastery over anger is not suppression, it's transformation. The Stoics understood that anger is not an enemy to be killed, but a messenger to be understood. It reveals where you still expect the world to obey your will. The moment you see that, you've already begun to transcend it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
That realization is liberation. When you stop demanding that life be different, peace arrives instantly. No argument, no delay, no resistance. Just peace. Imagine a life where nothing external can disturb your inner balance, where criticism sounds like wind passing through trees and insults lose their weight. That's the Stoic ideal, but it's not fantasy. It's built day by day through awareness. The Stoic wakes up each morning and rehearses adversity. He imagines being criticized, misunderstood, ignored. And when it happens, he smiles. Why? Because he expected it. He was ready. This practice, called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, turns surprise into serenity. You can do the same. Expect challenges, not peace. Expect discomfort, not ease. Then, when peace comes, you'll cherish it. And when chaos comes, you'll endure it. Seneca once wrote that anger makes us slaves, but calmness makes us rulers. In our world of constant noise, that truth is more powerful than ever. People today are addicted to outrage. The internet rewards emotional reaction, not rational reflection. But the Stoic stands apart. He pauses when others panic. He breathes when others explode. He chooses reason when others choose rage. That is the mark of true strength, not loudness, but stillness. You may not control the world, but if you control your reactions, you control your experience of it. That is power the world cannot take away. And yes, you'll still feel anger. You'll still be provoked. Even Marcus Aurelius confessed his struggles in his meditations. But the difference is, you'll no longer be possessed by those emotions. They'll arise and fade like waves on the ocean, unable to sink you because you've learned to float. The modern Stoic learns to pause, observe, and respond, not react. That pause is where your power lives. It's where you choose whether to create peace or chaos. That one moment of awareness is the line between mastery and misery. And every time you choose calm, you rewrite your destiny. Forgiveness, then, is the highest form of Stoic strength. Not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. To forgive is to refuse to suffer twice, once from the offense and again from resentment. It's the ultimate act of self-control. Marcus forgave traitors. Seneca forgave critics. Epictetus forgave masters. You can forgive anyone. And when you do, you become untouchable. The chains of anger fall and freedom begins. That's the quiet revolution Stoicism offers. Not control over the world, but over yourself. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't fight the wave. Let it pass. The next time life throws chaos your way, don't shout, breathe. Remember this: calm is not weakness, it's control. Stillness is not emptiness, it's power contained. The world may rage, but you can remain at peace. That is how the Stoics lived. That is how you rise above. Because the greatest victory is not over others, it's over yourself. When nothing can make you angry, nothing can control you. When you master your emotions, you master your life. The storms will come, the noise will continue, but inside you will stand unmoved, like the cliff in Marcus's words, firm, grounded, untouchable. And when you reach that state, you'll finally understand. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you choose moment by moment, breath by breath. That's how to never get angry or bothered by anything again.